When EVs started to become mainstream, I was really excited because as a designer, this means that we no longer need a big engine in the front end. We don't need the transmission. Instead, what we can do is create a base, a skateboard of batteries, and on top of that, we can design pretty much anything we like. It's a completely new world for designers. And Honda has now unveiled two concepts. One of them is said to be 90% production ready, which blows my mind because this looks like a proper concept car that a futuristic concept car that is far from production. It also has me thinking, how are they going to put this into production with this interior? I think that's probably the 10% that they're going to have to adjust before they go into production. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at both these Zero series from Honda. We have one sporty concept, that's the one that they say is going into production in 2026, and then we have more of a transporty concept, which we don't have any news if that's going to go into production or not. But I honestly think that that one looks closer to production than the sport version. So let's have a look. First of all, before jumping into Photoshop, talk about the design, this article from The Verge. I'm going to link this down in the description. So Honda Zero includes two concepts: a sleek sedan-like, I'm not sure if you can call this a sedan-like design, but we have this one, and then we have a boxier big booty van thing called the Space Hub. So Honda announced a new global electric vehicle series dubbed Honda Zero, presenting it as an antidote to the recent trend of thick, heavy EVs seen on the road today. And I think that's a huge problem with EVs. Very hard to get away from the fact that they are very heavy with all these batteries. Its first model, based on a sleek sedan-like concept called the Saloon, is starting in North America in 2026. So they only have basically a year to put this thing into production. It's going to be very interesting to see how much of this design is actually going to be visible in the production version. Honda also introduced a boxier van-esque concept called the Space Hub, riding atop a thin vehicle architecture with a low floor meant to accentuate aerodynamics. And this is the new logo for the EVs of Honda. It's a little bit sleeker H like this, but you can still definitely recognize it as the Honda logo. The automaker stressed a start-from-scratch engineering approach to the lineup, including the new H-Mark logo. Many of the EVs hitting the US market this year are very big, heavy SUVs and trucks. So this is, as they say, they want to make something completely different with EVs. And I think that's a really cool idea. And you know what this reminds me of from a front view? Reminds me of the Lamborghini Countach. We do have the wedge design, clear wedge design. You can see just the A-pillar right here, but more on that later when we jump into Photoshop. The Saloon has a sloping fastback shape with unique rectangular lights in the front and rear that resembles a vintage Black & Decker Dustbuster. So let's see what this is. Pretty much, I mean, it actually looks like one of these old vacuum cleaners. The interior is minimal with Tron-like lighting accents, a single central display, and wheels with pixelated cover. So I guess these wheels right here are pixelated or something like that. The Space Hub, however, I really like both these designs. The thing here is, I think they have a pretty simple graphics. I'm gonna try to retain myself before jumping to Photoshop, but I still think they do have a lot of personality to them. It's a very hard thing to do. So the Space Hub resembles a minivan with minimal overhangs and a rear light that has a similar look to Rivian's electric delivery vans for Amazon. Inside are two bench seats that are facing each other, suggesting that an autonomous shuttle service could be a possible future use case. So we don't really have any specs for these two cars, but Honda says that these future EVs will be both partially and fully autonomous. A retractable steering wheel that emerges from the dash, and this is one of these features that I don't think we're gonna see. I don't think you're allowed to have that because of regulation stuff just yet. Just have the steering wheel go into the dash and toggle between human and robot or autonomous driving. You have Honda Sensing is a level 2 system, meaning drivers still need to pay attention to the road and are legally liable for the car's operation. Just have a look at this design. The rake, we have the vacuum cleaner up front. It looks cool. It's just a cool design. We also have a screen in the front end here. So Honda is aiming for optimum battery efficiency, consisting of a motor, inverter, and a gearbox that all of them generates or converts electric power into the energy for driving. Honda is also planning on introducing more AI-powered feature in its future lineup of vehicles. Not sure if I'm a huge fan of that. When it comes to AI, I don't know what direction we're gonna go. If it's gonna be overall, net good or net bad for humanity moving forward. So I'm not sure how I feel about implementing that type of technology already into mass-produced cars. This feature will collect data about driver preferences to present a more personalized experience, as well as make route suggestions based on location information. But don't we already have that with Google Maps? Like it can update where you have a traffic accident or something like that. It turns this road into red and reroute you to a different street. I think that's enough. I don't think we need all this AI stuff in cars just yet. So this is the Space Hub interior, looking pretty cool. You have a lot of glass here. You don't want this to roll over. That would be a disaster. And then you have this retractable steering wheel that allows driver to toggle between manual. If you want to do what you're supposed to do in a car as a driver, drive the car, you just pull the steering wheel out, I guess. So Honda is aiming for 30 new EVs by 2030, 100% zero emission auto sales by 2040. I do think that this does not mean that all of their cars are going electric, because I think we can have zero emission with different type of fuels. I really hope the Porsche puts in an effort, and other companies are investing in this synthetic fuel that Porsche is working on. It's a little bit, it is way too expensive right now, but that would mean that we could still have internal combustion engines with I think it's zero emission gas-like cars. So with that said, if you want to check out this article, it's linked down in the description. Now let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at both of these super cool concepts from Honda. I do like what with this direction, because this looks like something completely different from other EVs we've seen recently, this bubbly design. Even though, yes, if you look at this, if you start with the saloon here, then we're going to go into the Space Hub, I think it's called, the Boxer design. We have this clear wedge shape going forward, and then we have, now I can't unsee this vacuum cleaner that they mentioned in the article, because it definitely looks like a handheld small vacuum cleaner. But these lights, how these are integrated, definitely reminds me of a Lamborghini Countach when you look at it from this angle with this wedge design. And we also have the headlights being a pretty similar style to what we have in the Countach. And have a look at this. This is definitely something that Hyundai started, just like Lexus started back with the first IS model, to have a clear taillights with those old, I don't know if you remember those, but those were the first ones to start and have clear taillights, and then it became pretty much the norm. And Audi then continued to develop its light design with the R8, first with the LEDs in the front end, daytime run lights, and now Hyundai started with these pixelated lights. I do think this is going to be a transition into other car manufacturers as well, because this looks almost like sort of pixelated style here. Down here though, we do have a big, here is first of all the new Honda logo for the EVs, and then this entire section is a screen, I guess, because you can have all types of animations showing here in the front end. So you don't want any rock chips any rocks coming flying from a semi in front of you right into the screen and destroy the pixels there. That would be a pretty huge problem. So it doesn't look like we have any side mirrors here. In cars without side mirrors, I just think they look naked. Even though we can have all type of cameras today, it just looks like they're missing their arms on the side. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I would always like to have physical side mirrors here. Now moving on to the side view, and here you can see this design, how it's built on top of a very thin, Honda says, platform down here, full of batteries. So we have the battery pack sitting very low, bringing down the center of gravity. And I assume they said that these wheels, that I'm not a huge fan of the design of these, but it looks like we do have some pixelated graphics maybe in these sections. I'm not entirely sure what is pixelated here, but it's a very complex looking wheel, and you can see that it covers up the entire wheel as well. Typical, EV style with this wheel. But overall, this design reminds me of the old Italian sports cars from the 70s, when they had this wedge design. It looks pretty cool and almost, I would say, beautiful, this design. We have very soft surfacing with very sharp angles and silhouettes on this car. It looks unique for sure. It doesn't look like any other EV that we have on the market today in production. And I do believe that this is actually where the structural A-pillar sits. And then we have the glass extending all the way. And I talked about this a long time ago, that this is what we can do with EVs now. We can extend the greenhouse all the way pretty much to the front axle, since we don't have to fit an engine here and we don't have to fit an engine right here if we have a rear engine car, which creates of course a lot more space in a smaller wheelbase. Now looking at the rear view, this is by far my favorite view of this car. I think it looks so cool because we have this sculptured piece here, very nice muscle over the rear axle. It's not too harsh, it's still very subtle, feels almost organic, but then that in combination with the very sharp housings for the graphics back here, we have this 3D effect with all these LED lights going deeper and deeper into this rear end. We have a nice, pretty sporty diffuser at the very bottom with this LED F1 style inspired with this location. But overall, it looks like a very cool concept. And this is where I get confused when they say that 90% of this is ready for production. The interior looks nowhere near ready for production to me, because we do have this big screen here, which is pretty typical for today. That's just what we get these days. And then we have this steering wheel that is sort of a yoke style, I would say, that then retracts into the dashboard when you go into autonomous driving, which honestly, this is, sooner or later, this is going to be the normal interiors for cars. You're just going to sit around, lounge, do nothing, be on your phone probably, or maybe read a book or something while the car takes you to your destination. And for some types of, for maybe 80% of the vehicles, I think that is probably a cool idea, because I do know that the majority of people don't really necessarily want to drive their car. They want to be driven and just go to the places they want to go. They're not really into, you know, cars or driving. But for the rest of us, I'm glad. I really hope that they always keep the option for you know, driving the car yourself, because I mean, what's the point otherwise of having a car, in my opinion at least. So here we have the Space Hub, and this is a very similar design language, but you can see that I'm not sure where the headlights are implemented in this design, because we still have this same type of rectangular rounded corner graphics in the front end that we have on the Saloon, and we also still have the big, I think this is an even bigger display here in the front end. Wonder how dirty this will get, you know, in a blizzard or something like that. You drive through rain and snow and all that. You're gonna have to clean this front end a lot if you want to see what's actually displayed on the display itself. But I do believe that this will probably, if this goes into production, these pieces here will probably morph into some sort of headlights, because I can't see any headlights up here, or definitely not down here in the bumper. I really like these chamfers that we have going, because chamfers is a detail that I'm a huge fan of when it comes to car design and also product design, but it feels like it's going away and it's becoming more and more like this. You have just rounded surfaces all over the car, like we have in the Saloon, for example, without any sort of defining chamfers to house graphics. Looking at the side view, you have clear van proportions. I like that this is a continuous curvature going all the way back here. It looks pretty nice, and I do like the proportions of this. And we're gonna have a look at the rear view, which is again my favorite view of this. Looks like we have similar type of styling for the wheels here. Maybe, I'm not sure if these are also pixelated, probably, because they were revealed at the same time. So probably have the same style. We have a very clean, abrupt cut in the front and the rear. Massive space inside. You don't have a window back here though, which is interesting. Maybe they made this the sort of cozy area of the interior. I'm not sure. But we do have a little bit of styling down here to remove some of this weight, visual weight, by cutting into the body down here at the bottom. Looking at the rear view, this is definitely reminiscent of the Rivian Amazon trucks. I'm not sure if you've seen them. I've seen them a couple of times out here on the street already, and I do think they look cool. They look very futuristic, and same goes for this. I do like this integration of the taillight. It's just a clean, still very product designy feel to this, but it still has an automotive soul. It's very hard to explain, but usually when you have this type of product design vibe in your designs, you lose that automotive feel. But I think Honda did something cool here they managed to put a lot of product design feel and vibe into their designs, but still retaining that automotive spirit of the cars. I also like this specific surface here that we have in the back. Rounded, we have a nice surface here that then goes into a little bit of a muscle over the front and rear axles, looking beautiful. We also have sort of looking like we do have a small little diffuser down here, license plate holder, and some cool styling here as well. Very clean and very simplistic and straight to the point. I think this is something that Honda can build on when it comes to design identity. Same thing goes for the interior here as we have in the saloon. It's pretty much the exact same type of interior with the retractable steering wheel and the big screen back here. Very interesting approach by Honda to release a brand new line for Honda. So these are called the Zero line, and I think it's gonna be, as he said, 40 or something EVs by the next 10 years. So they're gonna push out a lot of EVs and probably a lot of hybrids as well moving forward. But excited to see where Honda's gonna take this design language and apply it onto all those new models.